topics a little bit earlier this morning. Let's see how our clicker's doing. Today we're going to take a look at an introduction that talks about Agile DevOps, how they're related. I've heard a lot of things even throughout the day about them not being related at all to being inseparable, so we're going to talk about what actually may be the case. We'll talk about how they work together, some of the culture changes that are associated, because we talked a lot about a lot of the tools and a lot of those sorts of things, but we're going to talk about some of the cultural aspects. And then we'll talk about Dean Kim's DevOps handbook, which I mentioned a few times earlier this morning, and we'll take a look at some of the items that are next. So, my background, I've been about 2 decades in technology, about half of that time using Agile, DevOps, innovation methods, coaching, training. I've trained probably over 300 teams, coached over the years, enterprise coaching, Agile, DevOps, etc. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Written a book on distributed Agile as well, and I'm also trained as well in technology, also as a lawyer. Don't hold that against me. But I've seen quite a bit, and we will talk about it here, and hopefully give you guys some interesting insights. So let's take a look first at what we call the waves of Agile. The first wave, which we can say includes DevOps. Agile DevOps is really not something that is so new, actually. We used to call it Scrum XP, we used to call it XP, we used to call it Agile Engineering Practices. We've just kind of coined a new term, and we've associated some new things with it, but it's not, these practices did not exist prior to this. Okay? So the first wave, really going back 2001, the Agile Manifesto, Scrum, single teams, we had a lot of this, and this has been going on up until very recently. We had a lot of single team type Agile. And in Asia, it's about 5 years behind the US. So up until very recently, a lot of organizations were really just implementing a few Agile teams here and there, but not necessarily anything that scaled more broadly. The second wave is what we call Agile at scale. So you heard Ian and others talking about SAFe, and we've heard about different Agile scaling and Spotify and all these approaches. A lot of these now we'll talk about later incorporate DevOps, and this is to take this from a few teams. So I've got 5 or 10 independent teams running around by themselves, taking it to actually being alignment, teams maybe across the entire IT department, maybe across the entire organization, or multiple locations, all working in collaboration, which is of course going to have a much higher impact than just having a single team or a couple of teams to do a nice pilot for the CEO, and that's it, right? So a different scale we're talking about here. The third wave is what we call business agility. This is really very new, probably in the last year or so, certainly in Asia, in the US maybe a couple of years now. And the idea is really, how are your leaders, your CEO, your C-suite, your operations, your management, your marketing, your finance teams, are they using these principles? So we talked about ING, I think I talked about some folks, ING Netherlands, who is a very good case of business agility, and they use this really across their entire organization. So they take the practices that they had started out using here in IT, and they actually took that all the way out throughout their whole business. And then the fourth wave, we call it digital innovation. So these are methods like, you're going to hear blockchain and AI and big data and robotics and cloud and all these things. So the real reason that we do all these things in Agile is we do them because we actually want to make sure that we are able to adapt to these changes, right? There's no point in standing around using Agile and DevOps and, oh, I can deploy so fast, and we develop software really quick, but you're not really responding to anything. All you're doing is just kind of sitting in your IT department doing some stuff that nobody cares about. That doesn't matter. So the reason that we do this, and this is really running in parallel to all these ways of Agile, is because of what we call VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, associated with all of these changes that are constantly happening, and you need to be able to respond to them. So that's why we have these waves of Agile, is really to be able to address this fourth wave in your organization.